Today I'm going to talk about how to set up a full stack application that you can use as a starter project. This project comes with the front end, the back end, and the database, and it uses JWT tokens to authorize user actions. This project is going to be located at this GitHub repository, and we're going to use tag version 4. I will be using Docker Desktop, Spring Boot, Angular with Node.js, and PostgreSQL. So these are kind of the requirements. You need to install these in order to get this project running. When the project starts running successfully, you should be able to see this dashboard here. It's a simple dashboard, doesn't really work yet, but it's just a starter template to get you going. If you inspect this, it also is connected to the backend API, and there's also a Swagger doc available. This Swagger doc goes over the user controller with registering and login, providing the JWT token, and there's an entity model called the tail that has CRUD operations. And this password hello doesn't do anything right now. So if you're interested in getting a full stack application set up with Spring Boot, let's go ahead and get into it. The fastest way to get this project running on your local computer is by setting up Docker Desktop. Select one of these and allow Docker Desktop to be installed. Once you get it installed, you'll have a GUI that looks similar to this. We can see that I started the Ninetales project here, and we can see the various ports that are available. One thing to mention is the Postgres database, the outside port is 5434. If you want to view the Postgres database, you need to install Postgres and get pgadmin installed on your computer. After you get pgadmin installed onto your computer, open it up and connect to the server by registering it. I'm going to just give this a simple name, Ninetales demo. Connection properties, the port was 5434, which matches with the Docker instance 5434. Username is Postgres, the password is Postgres as well. And the host is going to be localhost. If you don't get any connection issues, you should be able to go to the Ninetales database, select the schemas. In public, there's a few tables here, and we can look at one of these tables, tail type. And yeah, so when you run the Docker instance, it's going to pre-fill some of the database with static data. It's also going to create the database tables for you. And I'll walk you through how that's done. Let's go ahead and set up the project on our local computer. The first thing you want to do is go to this GitHub repository, Ninetales, and we're going to clone this repo. The source code will also be in the description of this video. Now that we have the Git address, I'm going to pick a directory where I want to add this repository. So for me, I'm going to add it into my documents tutorial Spring Boot full stack application tutorial and run git clone. After you clone the project into your directory, you will want to cd into that project. So cd ninetails. And then for this tutorial, we're going to use version 4. So you're going to check your branches, git branch, and we're in the main branch. So I'm going to switch to git checkout v0.0.4. And then we'll run git branch again to confirm we're in the version 4. So if you want to follow along with this tutorial, make sure your branch is pointing to v0.0.4. Okay, so the repo has been added to a repository of our choosing. I can see it here, ninetails. What I'm going to do is go to IntelliJ and open a project. So file, open, and find that directory where I saved the project. Okay, I'm going to select this folder here, make sure the palm is included. Choose a new window. Okay, so it successfully got the project added into IntelliJ. If you go over the README, it shows you how to build the project using Docker. So there's a bash command and PowerShell. I currently work on Windows, so I know the PowerShell command works. There might be some issues with bash. So if there are, let me know and I can see if I can fix them. But I want to use this PowerShell command, which is a Maven clean package. And this will install all of these modules that I created. So the API, the UI, and then liquid base for our database migration. Okay, so I'm going to open up the terminal here, make sure I'm in my ninetails project, and run the PowerShell command. Maven clean package, Docker compose up build. For this to work, you're going to need all of these browsers, all of these tools here. So you need Spring Boot with Java 17. You need to get Angular, which you can get through Node.js, and you also need to have Postgres database set up. And if you're interested, I'll walk you through how to set that up after I get this package built. So right here, it's building all of the packages. Okay, so this is a little embarrassing, but it looks like while it was trying to build the UI, it failed to build it. And that's because we're missing some dependencies inside of the UI. So what I'm going to do is open a new terminal, make sure I'm in the ninetails directory, and then I'm going to cd into the ninetails UI. And then once I'm in there, I want to go into source main TypeScript. And this is where the Angular project lives at. From here, we should be able to run some simple commands to just get our package initialized. So I'm going to run npm install. It's going to go ahead and install all of the dependencies needed on the Angular side. Okay, from here I think we should be good. So I'm going to go back to the original terminal and try and rerun that command to clean the package and then run it with Docker. This time it looks like the UI was able to build successfully. And it's creating all the containers. Now we can see it's starting the database container and initializing the database. And after the database is good, we're going to trigger the liquid base to initialize the database tables and the static data. Once liquid base is complete, then the API and the UI are going to trigger and start up. It looks like everything started up successfully, and we can verify that in our Docker container. So inside of your Docker GUI, if you go to the containers, and you can just search N1, it will show you the containers that are running. So liquid base only runs at the very beginning to initialize the tables, then it turns off. But here we can see the connection to the Postgres database, which we connected to earlier, and the API and the UI. Cool. So we are able to get the project to, where is it? We're able to get the project to run successfully on Docker. What if you want to customize this further and maybe use it for your own stuff? I'm going to show you how you can do that. So let's stop these containers and turn off our Docker instances. And I'm going to run this project on my local computer. So if you review the README inside of Ninetales, you can find that there are more READMEs for setting up this application on your local computer. And you want to do it in this order. The first one you want to do is the Ninetales liquid base README. The requirements for this are Java 17 and PostgreSQL. The first thing you want to focus on is making sure you have a database called Ninetales in your Postgres, your local Postgres database. So what I'm going to do is go to pgadmin and create this database here. So I'm going to go into pgadmin, select the database on my local computer, which is this PostgreSQL 16. In the database side, I'm going to create a database called Ninetales, exactly like that. The owner is Postgres. You can leave everything else as is. Go ahead and save that. I have the database created, but there are no tables yet. So now that the Ninetales database is created, let's go ahead and create the tables and the static data using liquid base. Inside of your terminal where your Ninetales project is located, cd into Ninetales liquid base. And once you're in liquid base, you can run the maven clean install command. This gets the project dependencies installed, and then you can run it using maven spring boot run. And so this triggers the liquid base. It found 6 scripts to run. Inside of the resources, there's a change log where I set up the liquid base actions. If you're interested in how to set up liquid base, I have another video on that you can watch. With this one, I did a combo of SQL files with XML files. So the XML files provide steps on how to roll back some changes, and the SQL files will go over how to insert changes into the table. You can also run this project without using the Maven commands by just going into the Java directory of the Liquidbase, finding the Ninetales Liquidbase application, and clicking this play button. This will also get the project running as well. And that's how I'm going to run the other projects from here on out. So now that we got the database initialized with Liquidbase and our static table set up, I'm going to go ahead and start up the API. In the README, it also mentions you need the Ninetales database. And you can run the project with Spring Profiles active local if you want. For right now, it doesn't really matter. But these are the environment variables you can also add in to the application. So if your properties are different and you need to customize your configuration, you can do that through these environment variables. If we look inside the application YAML, you'll see the port settings and then the database settings. I left a few different actions commented out here because there's also this data SQL. So if you don't want to use the Ninetales API with Liquidbase, you can auto trigger your API to build the tables and set up the static data for you. Now this isn't preferred in production, but if you don't want to, if you just want a quick setup, you can change these configurations and it will create the tables for you on here as well. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is in my Ninetales API, I'm going to open up the Java directory and find the Ninetales API application. I can go ahead and run that. It'll boot up the application and we should be able to view it. Okay, so we set up the database using Liquidbase and I am trying to run it now with the API and connect to the API. It's throwing this missing sequence, note sequence, and it's happening because of this DDL auto validate. So this validate checks to make sure that the entities I created inside of this API. So if we look at the model entities, these are the database entities that are being created. The particular error is related to this note entity and saying the note sequence doesn't exist. I'm going to have to fix my Liquidbase later to include the sequence, but for now, what I'll do is comment out this validate and we'll do the update, DDL update. That way, the tables will be recreated so they work for these entities and they'll add the missing sequence that we need. So if I save that and go back to the Ninetales application, run it again, should be able to boot up successfully this time. I can validate that by going to the location. So if we open up the API backend localhost 9901, I can create a user. So I'll just copy it from my last test, but I'll create a user. Actually, let's just type it out. So the email test@test.com, first name tester, last name test, password tester, username tester. Go ahead and execute that, and it was able to create us a user and provide us with a JWT token that we can use in the future to make authorized actions on this endpoint here. Okay, so we got the front end, the back end, and the liquid base set up with some issues that I'm going to look into and fix later. But now that we got that running, we can start up the UI as well. So if I go to this Ninetales UI in the source main Java Ninetales UI application, if I click play here, it should boot up the application. One thing is earlier with that error we noticed is we need to build the static files, and the static files get built in the TypeScript location here, and then moved into the static resources here. So now the UI should be available if I go to localhost 900, we'll get the UI. And the UI is connected to the backend. We can confirm that through this API URL. Now, if you want to look into the UI further, just the Angular part, you can do that by seeding into the TypeScript location. If I open my terminal, open that second terminal that we had that went into Ninetales UI, source main TypeScript. Inside of here, if I type in code, I'll go directly into the Angular application. Right now, the UI isn't complete yet, so it's just the bare bones. I have a dashboard, and I kind of just threw all my ideas into this dashboard for now. Later, I'm going to optimize it. But here we can see I'm using this UI config service. I'm going to improve this so that I get this URL at the beginning of the startup, and then this URL can be passed to all the services that might need it. So yeah, that's the whole project. If you want to get a project started with an API and UI all good to go, you can just clone this project and set it up. And then you can further customize it to just make your own thing if you want. A few things to note here is inside of the Ninetales UI project, if we look at the build plugins here, I'm running npm commands to build the project. I think I'm going to add another command in here to run an install just in case. That sounds like a good idea. If we look into the liquid-based application, the most of the meat is inside this db changelog. Every time I make a database change, I'm going to place it in here. So I think for the sequence issue, I'm going to have to figure out how to fix it inside of here. And then finally, we have the API, and this is just your generic Spring Boot microservice. We have the application DB properties, the application YAML. In here, we have the user principal to save the users in the database, and a bunch of filters to handle JWT tokens. A lot of the meat inside of here is mostly focused on this entity, the tail entity, and everything kind of revolves around this entity, I would say, or this is kind of like the domain of this application. If you open up the controller package, you can see the controllers that were provided through that Swagger page. So we have the tail controller with the Swagger documentation and the different CRUD operations. We have that user controller to log in and register. And any other controllers I'm going to make in the future are going to go in here. If you want to see the end result of the fixes, you can switch over to 005. So git branch, we're on 004. I want to switch to 05. Git checkout v0.0.5. And yeah, now you can see you'll be able to check out the changes in here on 0.5.